right. Good evening. Welcome to our work-study meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, and it is 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our student leader, Roe Beckett-Wade.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 1.3, roll call. All members of the board are present, and all members of the administration are present. Mr. Dolezal, Dr. Plutnik, Dr. Hendrickson, and Dr. Jensen. Item 1.4, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any changes? All right. All in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 2.1, our Student of the Month. At this time, I would like to introduce Roe Beckett-Wade, or I did it. Thank you. Roe Beckett-Smith, our Student of the Month.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. It was a great honor. What I love about my school is that it's student-led. I believe that the way to let students figure out how you can experience life and learning. Things I see in myself: passionate, trustworthy, dreamer, kind, leader, and so much more. Some things come easy, but the meaningful things you have to work for. This is why I strive to be a better person. Thank you, everybody, for letting me speak. It has been a pleasure to share my thoughts and achievements. When I look at my school, I see dreams. I hope you too. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Horseshoe Trails Elementary.
All right. Our Students of the Month. Oh, I got my little... All right. I don't have my thing that I read. Yeah, I don't have my little thing to read. No, the other. Okay. It is with great pride that we gather to celebrate our exceptional Students of the Month. Each month, we recognize students who embody our district's core values: perseverance, leadership, compassion, and excellence. Tonight, we honor not just academic achievement, but the qualities that shape these students into well-rounded future leaders. As Maya Angelou once said, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. Our honorees have demonstrated success through passion and dedication, inspiring peers and making their families, teachers, and community proud. Whether excelling in academics, arts, athletics, or leadership, they show that greatness comes from hard work and commitment. Their achievements are the result of a strong support system, parents, teachers, and the community working together. To our honorees, congratulations. You are the best of Cave Creek Unified, and we look forward to your future contributions to the world. And so I would like to ask the board to come up here, and we will introduce each of our honorees. All right, our first student is from Black Mountain, and it is Wyatt Prenevost. Come on up. Congratulations. From Desert Sun is Audrina Stelly. From Desert Willow Tenley Reisbacher. From Lone Mountain, Ryan Glomsky. From Horseshoe Trails, Trip Roberts. Also from Horseshoe Trails, Gemma Flayhive. From Sonoran Trails, Lily Dieduck. Our student of the month from Cactus Shadows is Lila Stroman. And she's not here tonight. She is soccer. Yes. So thank you. And she is also the valedictorian. So anyway, parents, if you'd like to take some pictures, please come on up. Okay. If anybody would like to leave, we're going to take a couple-minute break, and then after that, we will do our Carefree Cares Awards. Item 2.2, Carefree Cares Award, presented by Mr. Dolezal and Mayor John Crane and Vice Mayor Cheryl Croyer.
Madam President and board members, it's great to be back on such a special occasion. Vice Mayor said to me, regret she's not able to join us tonight. And before I get started, I just want to let you know how much I'm looking forward to the National Read Across America Day on Monday morning. It's like one of the best things I get to do. So thank you for that.
Well, and Mayor Crane, we would be remiss if we did not extend our sincere thanks to you and the town and all of your support that you give us in the partnership with Carefree and Cave Creek Unified School District. We really appreciate your support and your ongoing support of education, our students, and then especially our staff with this. So without any further ado, we'll give away some awards.
I just want to let you know that I think it's critical that we recognize the exceptional teachers from all the 7 schools, especially in the days of when there's so much financial constraints and closing schools, and there's so many distractions. So for those who really excel, we owe it to them to recognize them. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
First up, we have from Black Mountain, Becky Curtin. Next up, from Desert Willow Elementary, Caroline Sy. Well, I don't believe she is here, but from Desert Sun Academy, I would like to recognize Dot Silva. From Horseshoe Trails Elementary, Kelly Siegel. From Lone Mountain Elementary, Kelly Schuler. From Sonoran Trails Middle School, Lindsay Nolte. Lisney.
I would have pronounced it.
And from your Cactus Shadows Falcons, Chris Dixon.
Oh, wait a minute.
Now if spouses or kids want to come up and take it. Congratulations.
Okay. Item 2.3, our financial presentation presented by Dr. Pletnick.
Dr. Pletnick, if you want to give about 30 seconds just for the room to clear.
We need to get Jeopardy music. Come on, let's go. Okay, you're up.
Okay. President Busby, Vice President Olmer, members of the board. Tonight I am going to give our annual financial report for our tax credit information. So the presentation I'm going to give actually follows the past couple of years' presentation. So it may look familiar to you, but we're going to go ahead and go over all the tax credit data. Oh yes, sorry, member Moore, not for you. Okay, so extra curricular tax credit accountability. So going over some of the rules, and again, it's ARS statute 43-1089, that districts must maintain detailed accounting records for tax credits. We have to ensure that they are used for allowable expenditures, and they support both the school and the purpose that's designated by the taxpayer. And again, as if you've ever filled out a tax credit form, you know there is a specific portion of that where you can designate the tax credit for a specific purpose. Each school has to submit a report that shows the number of payments, the dollar amounts of the contributions we received, the amounts spent on categories or programs, and there's 17 on the Arizona Department of Revenue form, different categories that we have to put them in. And it's due by February 28th. So as soon as I do this presentation tomorrow, we will be filing with the Arizona Department of Revenue. So what's the purpose of tax credits? Well, it's to help support extracurricular activities, character education programs. It can help support standardized testing fees, especially for the college credit courses for our high school. Preparation courses for the standardized testing, CTE certification assessments as well. And up until July of 2024, you may remember we could use it for capital expenditures. Currently, the legislature is still reviewing that one, so keeping fingers crossed, maybe that may come back. All right, so what if we do receive a tax credit contribution, but it's not designated for a specific purpose? Well, a school site council must determine how the contributions are to be used, and it has to support still the eligible activities. So each principal has a site council that they do put together of staff members, and then they review where they're going to use those tax credit donations. So this chart is a breakdown of just how much we received from each of our schools in tax credit, and it does break down into those individual categories as well. So as you can see, that was our expenditures by individual, I believe I said revenues, our expenditures by individual categories. Then we do have our revenues and how much we've collected from each school in revenues in calendar year 2024. Now, I do want to make sure you do know there's a distinguished little bit here that we have to look at. This is for the Arizona Department of Revenue, so it works off a calendar year. So when we pull this data, what we have to do is look at the calendar year data. So my department works very, very hard on this because our systems are actually set up for our fiscal year. So what we have to do is we have to pull the report from the beginning of the year through the encumbrance period that goes through August, and then also we have to pull the reports from the July 1st date to the end of the year. Now, the interesting piece of that is we do have to report the revenues and expenditures in the year they were received. So no matter where they may claim that tax credit, we do report in the year it was received and also the year the expenditure occurred. So when we paid out that expense, that is where this report. So when you look at the expenditures, you will see those are all expenditures that happened in the calendar year 2024. And you can see our tax credit revenue history here going back to 2017. And you can see the last couple of years we've actually been holding pretty steady at about $386,000. But you can see from 2017 to 2024, there has been a decline in the amount of tax credit revenue that we have received. Now, how do we promote and advertise this? There's a tax credit video on the website. There is a mailer that does go to all district homes. So I reviewed that mailer this year. We looked at it and we looked to see if we can cut some of the costs on it. Unfortunately, with the printer, it is what it is. The nice part is, even though we spent money on the mailer, we did receive about $22,000 just from that mailer directly. So we are still seeing a positive result from sending that mailer to the households. And for more information, that's our tax credit website as well. And are there any questions?
Do you guys already have a curated list for that mailer?
A curated list?
Do you already have the list for the mailer where it goes out to? What's
Yes.
what's the record count on that?
I would have to check. I'm going to be honest with you.
If
what
you
the
get that to me,
mailing list is.
I can probably get the next one donated.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Do we know what percentage of, on that total dollar amount, what percentage is coming from families already in the district versus people not in the district? Is there any way to even track that besides those that are?
Yeah, that would
No.
be a little bit more difficult. I mean, we can pull each individual tax credit and kind of link that to a person, but that information, I mean, I can attempt to try to pull that for you, for sure.
Do you happen to know the bill number that's up for review for putting it to capital?
If you give me about 5 minutes, I will be able to find that
Yeah,
out
whenever
for you.
you're,
I have
whenever.
an
But I was
email.
thinking that would be a good one because then
Yes.
at least that gives somebody like us to go see if we can.
Well, and I think if that's a current bill, the nice thing about tax credits affecting every charter school as well, which heavily relies on tax credit for capital. So I would think there'd be a lot of noise going to legislation around that.
Now we can make some.
And
Yeah.
I can certainly get that number, like I said, for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I have it in my email.
Okay.
That's good stuff.
All right, any other questions? All right, action consent, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Item 4.1, public comments. According to ARS 38-431.01H, governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are: 1, a board member may respond if there is a direct criticism of the board member; 2, a board member may direct staff to look into a matter; or 3, a board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. We have one speaker. It is Scott Brown, and he will have 3 minutes to speak. Item 6.1, approval of employment contract language for the 2025-26 school year for special services professional, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, members of the board, move that the governing board approve the employment contract language for the 25-26 school year for the special services professional as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 6.2, approval of terminating certified contract language for the 2025-26 school year for certified classroom teacher, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, we move that the governing board approve the terminating certified contract language for the 25-26 school year for certified classroom teacher as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
I just have one quick question. Do we go through this just because there's changes or it's just legal? Does it have anything to do with the trust? Like, did they help us kind of streamline things?
Yeah, Member Ulmer, or Vice President Ulmer, good question. So every year we do have our contracts reviewed by legal. Sometimes there's some statutory requirements that are updated. For instance, with the certified teacher contract, March 15th is the time frame of when you can start giving contracts, or there's new statute that have to be built into that. For the most part, our contracts here this year is just dates updated with it. There was some language added to the administrator contract related to penalties for not having your certificate updated and fingerprint clearance card, but just an annual making sure that you agree to what we're binding contract in place.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Dr. Hendrickson. For
Yes.
this, I believe there was a committee set up to go over kind of that rubric for this. Do you have who was all a part of that, or?
For the contracts or for the RIF rubric?
Oh, that's the RIF rubric. I'm a step ahead. Sorry about that.
Wrong item.
Save that. I'll
Yes,
save that
say
question
that.
for 6.8.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Which one did we just do? 6.2? Okay. Are we on 2 or 3?
6.3.
Okay. 6.3, approval of administrative contract language for the 2025-26 school year, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, we move that the governing board approve the administrative contract language for the 25-26 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. 6.4, approval of exempt classified employment agreement for the 2025-26 school year, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, we move that the governing board approve the exempt classified employment agreement for the 25-26 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. 6.5, approval of non-exempt classified notice of appointment for the 2025-26 school year, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Busby, we move that the governing board approve, President Greer, move that the governing board approve the non-exempt classified notice of appointment for the 25-26 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 6.6, approval of certified contract language for the 2025-26 school year for certified classroom teachers, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, we move that the governing board approve the employment contract language for the 25-26 school year for certified classroom teachers as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6.7, approval of certified professional non-CSF eligible contract language for the 2025-26 school year, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, we move that the governing board approve the employment contract language for the 25-26 school year for the certified non-CSF classroom teacher as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6.8, approval of the reduction in force rubric presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, Greer. We move that the governing board approve the reduction in force rubric as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, your question.
Questions? Yes.
Yes.
I would like to know or inform the public as to who all was a part of coming up with that rubric.
Absolutely. Would you like names right now?
Or
Or
at least representation. It can
yeah,
be vague representation as far as each school.
Yeah, so to give you a little background, we adopted this policy in March of 24, and the original adopted trust policy was just the policy itself, did not have a rubric. It's up to individual districts to design that rubric based on their needs. So we had to design one prior to this because there hasn't been a need. We do not anticipate a need, but we want to be prepared for anything coming up. So back in January, let me get my dates right. In January, I met with a group of individual teachers comprising all of our elementary schools and then middle school as well, CCA representation, and provided them with what the recommendation was from the trust, the kind of a starting rubric, templates from our previous rubrics that we've used in the past, looking at some of our surrounding districts, what are the elements that they put on those. And so we spent half a day going through that along with our transfer process, determining what we value that needs to be on it, that we value within our staff, whether it be contributing to education as a whole outside of the classroom, additional certifications, endorsements, things like that. So we developed it from there. From there, we brought it to IBN. We had a discussion with it in IBN, kind of clarifying it, getting some input before going to cabinet for final approval before bringing it to the board. So we kind of had all eyes and hands on it, looking at it and making sure it is capturing what we look for in our teachers here in CCUSD, but also making it a fair process and legally binding as far as the requirements with the legalities.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 6.9, creation of board-appointed advisory committee, bond and override committee, presented by Member Moore.
Thank you. I would like to formally propose, obviously there's 4 of them, committees to address key areas that impact the district's financial and academic future. These committees will be instrumental in conducting research, engaging stakeholders, providing transparency, and actionable recommendations to guide future board decisions. These committees should be formed with a diverse group of teachers, parents, community members, and students. As we've seen in the recent meetings, student participation and ideas, sometimes those are the better place where things come from. To participate in these, the expectation is that we will deliver their findings to the recommendations within a designated time frame, equipping the board with insights needed to make informed decisions. I believe by taking this proactive approach, we can shift from reactive decision-making to strategic action, securing a strong future for CCUSD. I appreciate your time and consideration and look forward to further discussions on these initiatives. First one that's up right now is the Bond and Override Committee. This committee will evaluate past override bond measures, assess community concerns, and develop a strategy to secure necessary funding for our district's future.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Member Moore, would you read the recommended action there?
This committee will evaluate past override bond measures, assess community concerns, and develop a strategy to secure. Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. Move the governing board to approve the creation of the Bond and Override Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I have
idea.
a question. With any committee that is board directed, I guess,
Yep.
does that create some sort of limitation for the board or any kind of legalities, like, or if, can we?
President Greer, so what it does create is that it functions under open meeting law at that point in time. So the same agendas need to be posted 24 hours ahead. Public is welcome to attend. I know from a recent training, both Member Moore and Vice President Ulmer went through with the trust. There is warning about board participation in those, because if the board is participating in a committee that then is going to recommend something to the board to vote on, so there's some, can board members be there and watch or take in what is going on? That's different than actually participating in it. So there are some
And there's my understanding that one board member could attend for observation. One board member could attend for observation.
It can't be a quorum for sure.
Correct.
Right.
So,
Okay, so if a board member attends, is that board member still able to vote if there's a recommendation from the committee?
Yes, and that's where the group mentioned the other caution with that is that board member then might have more information than the other board members do. I think we've experienced when we've not been at a meeting, whether we're watching it or just reading minutes, that's different than being there. So again, there are some cautionary things there. Trust and certainly that guidance warns against,
So if the trust is advising against a board created committee. or
Sorry,
not-
they're not advising against a board-created committee. It's the board participation in that committee.
So if they're advising against the board participating in the committee, whoever attends the meeting, are they advising that that board member recuse themselves from voting on?
No, I have not read anything like that. It's simply the board member is there as an observer, a set of eyes and ears. But no, there's no recommendation to recuse themselves or anything like that. I would be happy to send the board. I can send in the weekly update, kind of the PowerPoint from that training that we went through, just so everybody has kind of the same starting point, and I'll point out what slides that information is on. Again, some warnings in other places. It's really looking after that. We're not violating open meeting law. We're not conducting board business in a non-scheduled board meeting and things like that. So the least dangerous way is really for a board member just to be present and observe. Board members could talk potentially about maybe they're not at the same one all the time. They might go to different ones, and then
Work
there
study.
could be a
yeah, you can do a work study and debrief.
right.
Just for clarification purposes, what's the difference between a committee that the board would initiate and something that would be a committee that would be initiated outside of the board?
Really, that's a board-initiated committee, a board called-for committee, functions under open meeting law.
Okay.
Are you talking about the difference between a focus group and a board
Well,
forum?
I'm just want to know what the difference is, because there's different guidelines I know that have to be adhered to if it's a board initiated or called for committee.
Yeah,
Now, again, there are some things, so again, would want to get some guidance from the board-appointed committee in terms of, you mentioned some timelines. So what are the timelines that you're looking at? What are those things? You mentioned the composition of that, guidance in terms of, am I then comprising those groups, or is the board appointing members to those groups? Because those are two different things, and
Yep.
it could be either way. So what is the desire on that end? And then again, once we set the meetings up, there's really only communication in those meetings, kind of communication in between, or if I or someone is asked, hey, go find this, we're talking about the bond one, but, go find this information out, really looking at sharing that in between. We'd be waiting till the next meeting, it agendized and all of that stuff, and then so it can be a little slower, more deliberate. I don't know what the right word would be there, but along those lines, it lays that out. But again, as Member Moore pointed out, it's open to the public at that point in time.
So help me understand, if, on this one for bond and an override, if this committee, the board approves this committee, they're over there working on it. So then if we put on the agenda a discussion about a bond or an override, we're limited to the information that can be shared with us because that committee is doing their thing?
No, I would look at it as that committee would come with some type of update in terms of here's what we've done and report out to you all, whether that's in a work study session or a presentation. It would be that group just reporting out on here's the progress to date. So Member Moore might, and I'm not saying, but Member Moore might say, we've got a 2-month, we want meetings, twice a month or every week for this. I will say challenges in terms of getting the committee together, and then especially I appreciate you wanting to have students, but then that also limits us to an after-school time because we're not pulling them, and so just there'll be some logistics, but that's it. So it doesn't preclude you from having a different conversation, but that group is really just the one who you've tasked with a specific outcome. So a 2-month runway. Here's what I want the outcome to be. And then they would report out.
So how does that differ from a committee that you would call?
It functions under open meeting law.
And that's the only difference?
What about the restriction on the board members? Would a board member be able to participate in the other type of committee? Or would that be the same thing?
Again, it would be the same thing. Again, if a board member is there, believe it or not, as wonderful as I know you are, when you're a board member and you come into a place, people recognize it. They might act differently. They might talk differently. So.
And that would.
But there's no difference in terms of an outcome. It would just be a group that I called makes a recommendation to me that then I bring to you, as opposed to this as you are creating that, and this group is really reporting out on what you've asked for in a timeline.
But I wouldn't be able to share some of the things that I know about going for bonds and overrides because I would only be able to observe. Is that right? I couldn't share my.
Yeah, I think that is where, again, when you look at the language of where the danger is if a board member is influencing the outcome of a committee that is making a recommendation for board action, that's where the cautionary tale lies.
Which we suffer from right now. So, Member Fortney, what you can do based on this is take a working session, which is the other piece of the puzzle. Should any of these pass tonight, the recommendation would be for a working session to put the motion in place, meaning what is the timeline criteria that we all agree upon? What are the things that we're going for? And then we can, much like the focus group, the cabinet can produce content to go charge the group with. So you can put forth, like, here's what we want to accomplish, and here's some valuable information. We just can't participate, but we can front load.
Got it.
That's my understanding. Because we have to give some guidance to what the call is. So therefore, we can provide the initial content.
Well, for our guidance as well in terms of what you're looking for. Correct.
100%.
But
So
would Member Fortney be able to chime in as the committee is working through their deliberations? I'm taking it that he wouldn't be able to add his commentary during a committee meeting. It's either front end.
Like, this is the kind of things that you need to do.
So if we set the criteria for feedback, then at that point where they present back to the board, you can come back with your questions and directions at a setting like this in an open. So you can guide it from the dais as they report back, depending on how we set the report back criteria, correct?
That's my understanding. Again, for all of our sake, I'll make sure I check.
Yeah, no, for the safety measures,
I'll verify.
But based on what I verified, as long as and that's what I'm saying, I would want to say, should these pass, have a working session with us and collaborate on the mechanisms that set this up for success. Because yes, I'm looking at you to provide guidance on this one. I'm just teeing it up.
Are these meetings then recorded? I know there's minutes, but are they recorded?
Can be.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. It would be open meeting law. So again, we can do minutes or we can record. You don't have to have both.
Do we?
Again, not knowing where exactly they could take place. It could be here. It could be another building. So certainly minutes will absolutely be provided.
If it's a board-approved committee, then does that mean Jill has to be the one doing the minutes? I'm just asking because that's a draw on her time.
No, I do not. I do not believe Jill has to be the one that's doing minutes. She is the official executive secretary for the board in these, in meetings like this. But other committees can have their own
Okay. Okay.
minute
Just asking.
takers.
No, it's good questions.
So, all right.
Got to go through the
Well,
paces.
you know, having the committee is an important thing, but we can't do it at the expense of somebody's day-to-day responsibilities. Any other questions? Anybody? Okay. Which one are we on? Bond and override. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. 6.10, creation of board-appointed advisory committee for capital raise committee, presented by Member Moore.
So that I speak to it and then I can do the recommended action? Or do you want me to do the recommended action and then speak to it?
Speak and recommend.
Okay, just checking. So this one's a capital raise committee focused on identifying alternative funding solutions. This committee will explore partnerships, grants, corporate sponsorships, and innovative revenue-generating initiatives to support the district's operations and facility improvements. Yes, we have some mechanisms in place, but I think that there's still more on the table. I've been active on this side for several months now and starting to make some headway. So yes, Member Fortney, we both have different categories we can provide some guidance and wisdom in. So with that, I move that the governing board approve the formation of the capital raise committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6.11, creation of a board-appointed advisory committee for school assessment committee.
All right, school assessment committee tasked with conducting a comprehensive evaluation of each school. Some of this stuff has been done, but again, just as we continue to navigate where we're going, school capacity programs, retention, test scores, resource allocation. You know, as for an example, last night we heard one teacher had 39 students, not enough books, and had an attendance issue. So what are those things that we can formulate and help support the cabinet with in what it takes to make these things kind of balance out, especially given our challenges? Property value and possible usage of those properties. Again, there's a lot of work to be done between now and phase 2, so I think this is just a complement to the action. Move that the governing board approve the formation of a school assessment committee.
So moved.
Second.
Question for you.
Yes.
For this committee, what cross-section types of people do you foresee wanting on that committee?
I think some of it is just, again, kind of taking a little bit of mix of that focus group essence that some people had. We had a couple other like community members, again, kind of a little bit more of a broader picture and lens so that everybody has a little clearer picture in the journey.
Well, when you say community members, because the facilities focus group had community members on it.
I understand.
So,
But
like,
again, it was focused on a core. So looking at the holistic view of our enterprise of campuses, this is kind of more of a holistic look. So we looked at elementary.
well, but that focus group had representation from all of the campuses, didn't it?
So this doesn't conflict with anything that we do as a cabinet or anything, does it?
This is the only one that makes me a little nervous due to the information you would probably need. As far as depending who's on there, because it would have to include like salaries and that sort of thing.
No, that's actually goes against what we can't produce that anyways today. That's goes into a different meeting set when you're getting into that. So you can't do salaries or anything like that. What you can do is look at the campus. Obviously, we just got the information on the deeds and what the capabilities are. So it's the exploration of, again, we're going to head into phase 2 anyway. So why not just push into it?
Yeah, this is the only one that makes me nervous because of
No,
that
and again,
operations versus
so this
the
is
other
the-
ones are more fundraising.
Yeah. So the nice part about this one is, again, like I said, we have a working session so we can iron out comfortability of certain topics. So I'm not ironcladding you guys into a box on this one. I'm trying to make it more collaborative and move us into working for the, again, the intent here isn't going to violate, our favorite one of, overreaching in policy and kind of encroaching on the cabinet. It's more of a, how can we get out in front a little bit more to better support the cabinet? And that's kind of the intent there. So Again, we can finesse a little bit more in a working session. I'm just trying to create the outline, if that makes sense.
So what kind of information are you going to look for if it's, because I, like you, I sort of struggle with this because it seems like it's a bit, I don't want to say overreach, but it's crossing some very fine lines.
Then it's open to interpret which lines you'd like to cross out.
Well, you're the
I
one
painted
but you're
I painted a
calling-
broad brush.
Okay, you're calling for the committee, so,
Yep.
I'm asking, be specific.
No, 100%.
Just having, well, we're going to do this.
No.
is a little too broad.
Understood. So the point of the committee is to really, if we are going down this path of change, then we should evaluate and look at holistically all of our campuses and kind of figure out where is that next direction where we're going, and what we need to prepare for should certain outcomes arise. So when you're looking at each particular campus, again, we're taking some of the variables and looking at what is its capabilities, what's the capacity usage. Again, we did some of this work, so some of it's already done. Really, it's just kind of what's that next step now that we've made these adjustments. Should another storm arise, we're a little bit more equipped and prepared for that next storm should it arise. So this is preventative.
I'm curious about the sentence, it should include a governing board member.
That was my
that have
original
to be
statement.
stricken?
That should have been stricken out.
Okay, all right.
I have
Superintendent Doles and I had that conversation, which is why we went back and forth with some of that commentary. So
on this one, what would be the difference? I know you had wanted to set up like a phase 2 for the facilities committee. If it's a cabinet focus group or committee, can a board member attend as just a view? I think so. Can they sit as
The,
like a fly on the wall sort of thing?
Again, well, certainly without a quorum, right, nothing can be done in a quorum. Again, the conversations that happen there and those types of things, again, based on who you are and what position you hold in all of that, there are different levels of questions. Sometimes there are things that get pretty specific on different things, and whether that someone wants to, whether that interferes with that conversation and that work would be open for debate. So what is the difference? I mean, realistically, that is, that is kind of it. I would look at, if we move this direction, then it would move this direction instead of, because otherwise we're really doing
Double the work.
correct. And having two groups, some of this, and again, I think I know where you're going, Member Moore, with assessment. Remember, assessment means something different in our brains than, so I think it's mostly around all of our physical holdings and properties and what are the different uses, which we've kind of talked about moving into. So with that understanding, we've also reached out to Hanover and have a group to look at efficiencies, both in academic programming, but in facilities, in in staffing, all of that stuff. So
It sounds like-
are we again competing and having multiple people doing the same thing?
It sounds
well,
like.
can I be a little bit more? Maybe I know you're trying to soft land this one, so let me see if I can land it a little bit better. The focus, a focus group formed by the cabinet, really is in protection of that's them doing their business, meaning that is for us to stay out of because that is technically overreach. That is the cabinet trying to get informed decision making done, not in a ill intent way of blinding us from that point, but they're doing the work so that they can get the information and figure out the next step for the business. Because again, to clarify for the public, we as a board have only so much reach, as we'll say. We're in charge of the superintendent. Everything from you down is your house. So meaning you form a committee, that's your committee, none of our business, in a respectful manner. The board form committee gives us a little bit of more optic, and we can drive certain directives so that we can come and meet in the middle on decision making with a little bit more information. Again, does that help kind of summarize?
It almost sounds like you're advocating for committees so that the board can run the district.
No.
And that is
No,
way
that's-
outside of our purview.
100%. It's not our job to run the
And-
the district. Our job is to get information to make informed decisions when we're presented.
With the focus group that's already been formed, it sounds like there's already been quite a bit of work already done.
Well, the original focus group had finished their job, came through and is done.
The group that you're
A
working.
new group would be formed.
Would be formed.
Well, but
Correct.
you've already said that you reached out to different entities.
Yes, well, Hanover's one, reached out to city managers who've agreed to help participate. So, yes, have talked with people about that group. But again, the group has not been formed.
This is probably, a good idea and all that, but I think that there's certain things that need to be fleshed out on this one a little bit more.
Yep.
Would it be cool to table this one and get more of that information, talk to all the parties involved about it, and then come back with exactly what it would look like?
Well, and just respectfully saying, I think on all of these so far, there's still a lot of information that we need to move forward with. And I know you've mentioned a work session type of thing. Our next meeting is in the middle of March, which is a business meeting. So our next work session really is until April. So I don't know, we would potentially, I believe, need to be looking at
Yep.
something sooner than that, if that's what you all wanted in terms of.
I think
of a
April's
work
fine.
session.
We've had enough on our plates. Reset, regroup, come back with a fresh mind.
Do you want to table both of them?
Table which ones?
Well, the 611 is the only one that's on the floor right now, so.
Do you want to table this? Then we need a motion to table.
Do I need to move to the approval first, then you motion to table, or you just motion to table?
Motion to amend the motion.
No, you're just making a motion to table it.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion to table 6.11.
It does,
So moved.
and it needs a second.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor of
Tabling?
tabling 6.11, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 6.12, creation of a board-appointed advisory committee for a student retention committee, presented by Member Moore.
So student retention, attraction, kind of one of the same. This committee will develop strategies to retain and understand the wants and needs of students, teachers, and parents in CCUSD. This basically leads into understanding what the consumer wants, both in the student, the parent, and the teachers, and figure out how to increase our retention, as well as this will lead into attraction too when it comes to marketing initiatives and everything else, because we'll have data points to work off of and can provide that to the cabinet.
So moved. Is that what you needed?
Oh, sorry. Move that the governing board approve the formation of the Student Retention Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Again, Member Moore and Board, I just want to be clear in terms of the direction we're going to need of the scope. I mean, it says it in here, but just the scope, what is the target, what is the timeline, all of those things in order to,
I would make a motion to table this for more detailed information and clarification, so that it's a little more clear what we're agreeing to and asking.
So moved. A second.
Okay. All in favor of tabling 6.12, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 7, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:59.
Let's not do this tomorrow.